So what you see on the screen is the finished sketch that I'll be working on in this video. I will be doing the image on the left because the image on the right, the image of the man, was completed after I had done this video. It was completed off camera. I had space to fill on the sheet of paper that I was working on, and I just didn't want to leave it blank, so I did it afterwards. I should have included it for another film, or part twos really don't work too well on my YouTube channel, so it's there, and it was done afterwards. What I'll be working on is the image that you see on the left of the woman. I'm working on a slightly textured 2-ply Bristol board, which I toned with a wash of yellow ochre mixed with Mars Black acrylic gouache. Onto that, I laid in a pencil drawing based on the photo reference that you see on the right. Now, while I'm doing this, while I'm painting or sketching this image, I want to discuss what's going to be the topic of this video, and that is how to work yourself out of a creative funk, or to get out of what some people might call artist block, or what they might call a lack of inspiration. There are many names that people give this thing where we really don't feel like getting into our work. There's so many things that get in the way of doing what we want to do because of something that's blocking it, right? There's something that's at the root of what's making us stop what we ordinarily would want to do. What is the root of this is basically our own emotions, things that pop up because life happens, right? Life happens, and sometimes things take a greater importance and affects the time that we usually reserve for our art. Thoughts and feelings that would usually be given to our creative endeavors are given sometimes to distractions that may not involve our feelings but call for attention and still sap creative energies. I know for myself, there are times that I have been worried about family members. I've been worried about bills. I've been worried about work because I work a 9 to 5. Any one of these things can take hold of my mind and leave little room for anything else. And as a matter of fact, that's what's been going on with me pretty recently. I've had concerns, I had things that have come up that have been very serious and very personal, and things that have called for my immediate attention and that I had to take care of, and left very little room to do anything else because, as I said, and as I've mentioned in other videos, life happens. There are things that come up and we cannot help it, but things that we need to take care of. And let me say right here, before I go any further, that I'm talking about art. I'm talking about life happens, but I'm talking about art, and art kind of has to take a back seat to important things, even though it's very important to me. Art has to take a back seat to my family. When there are needs, I need to take care of that. Art has to take a back seat to health. There are things that come up in regards to health that need to, if you're going to continue, in some cases, you're going to need to take care of those things. And that includes physical and mental health. And, it's very important. Let me say that, right here, that you definitely don't need to ignore those concerns. And if you need to seek help, physically or mentally, then that's very important that you do. Don't ignore life. For me, I must always find a way back to drawing and painting. it is simply a part of me that I cannot ignore for long because it's a part of me that I reserve for myself. Now, life calls you and pulls you in every different way, but there has to be something that belongs to you, that belongs only to you, that art kind of grew up with me as a friend. I've always been drawing. I've been drawing since kindergarten, and I don't know any time beyond. I'm amazed at some. I remember being at the home of one of my childhood friends, and his grandmother actually had a picture that I had done in kindergarten. And I was amazed at the picture. I must have been a copy of something that I saw, or maybe even traced it, whatever. But it was something that she kept, and I thought it was kind of sweet. But it was something that I had forgotten about. Now, at the time, I was I was in my late teens when I was shown that. So, but the thing is, the point of it is, it's simply a part of me, and it's a part of me that when I am not involved in, that I feel that lost. I feel that I'm neglecting me, so that I have to at some point jump back in. So let's talk about the point where we've reached this creative funk and we want to climb out of it, but don't exactly know how. The first thing I would advise is not to plan a big project. You may not be able to spend what little creative energies that you currently have on an ambitious project that can possibly end in failure. That would be disheartening and counterproductive. You need to have fun, to remember how you enjoy being creative. Now, given that the act of being creative isn't always enjoyable, but when you're in it, it's really you're facing challenges that may make you feel uncomfortable and you're pushing towards it. So in some ways, we enjoy that challenge. In other ways, we kind of kick ourselves in the head and just say, why am I doing this? But that's all part of the creative practice. You kind of, in the middle of it, you might even find that you hate it, but you don't really hate it. It's kind of a love-hate thing going on with art. I don't know. That's just, maybe that's just me. But sometimes when I'm challenged, or when I challenge myself and I want to push myself, I find that it may not be enjoyable at the moment, but I realize that at the end of it, I'm going to see some benefits. It's kind of like exercise, right? Exercise isn't always enjoyable. That's that phrase that they say, no pain, no gain. Well, sometimes it can be that way in art when you want to push yourself past the things that you are familiar with, or past what people have labeled their comfort level, and so that they can learn and grow beyond where they are at. And that's kind of the way I apply this, that sometimes it's not enjoyable, but yet I enjoy the benefits that I reap from it. I enjoy the growth that it gives me. So I push myself that way. So even though art may not always seem enjoyable, it is a kind of pleasure, in terms of I indulge myself to better myself. But to get out of this funk that you may or may not be currently in, or that I have been in, I would recommend that you need to have fun. You need to remember how much being creative can be fun. Kind of like that creativity that you had as a child, where basically you just wanted to paint, where you were maybe in kindergarten, and you had all those what they called poster paints back then, and you can just do whatever you want, and you go ahead and you just knock yourself out, right? You need to get back into it, and that really is what sketching is for. Actually, sketching could be a lot of things. Sketching could be just study and practice, or it could be exploring a new medium. It could be trying a new technique, trying to work out a composition or an idea, or it could be just play, or it could be entirely therapeutic as you lose yourself in your work. For me, it could be any one of these reasons or any combination of them. I begin this sketch by telling myself it's okay to fail. I'm doing this more for the experience than for a finished piece of art that I may hang on a wall. I use a reference image that interests me, something that I might think would be fun to do, not something I'm going to fuss over. Nothing that is so important to me, like maybe painting my wife or my children. I need a subject that I find interesting, but that I can at the same time detach myself from it. It's not important to me. It's okay to fail, but I'm going to give it my best shot. The thing is to make it as much a pleasant experience as possible. It's like you're trying to let yourself back into the room, that space where you can be creative, and the sketch is allowing you to get through the door. Once you get through that door, you can begin to feel comfortable in your creative space again. I choose a medium that I feel comfortable with, not something that I feel is going to challenge me or not something that I have never used before. I use something that I have used, that I'm comfortable with, and that I enjoy using. Something familiar, right? If you are painting, use the brushes that you enjoy working with. If you are drawing, you know how you have your favorite pencils, pick them out. Set up all your supplies ahead of time before you start your sketching. Get excited about the things that you're going to use. Find a surface that you enjoy working on. And, nothing that you're going to be afraid to throw out if that sketch doesn't work out. Make it a great experience. But remember not to be precious about anything. It has to be something that you feel free to discard at any point. The experience of doing it is what matters the most. The idea that you're trying to get back into the feeling. Not that you're trying to produce a great work of art, but you're trying to get back into the feeling of what it means to be creative. This sketch that you see me working on was begun as a result of trying to recover from the many distractions that life presents. Now, I'm 60 years old. I'm a dad. My kids are pretty grown right now, but there are still needs with that. And so, like I said, there are family concerns, and those drove me to be distracted and to take care of things, to make sure that everybody was all right. And those were my first concerns. And this sketch was an attempt to get past the feelings that I had to deal with after coping with all those things and getting myself back on track. After taking care of those needs, which called for my attention and kept me from my work. You might have to spend time shaking off the rust as you get back into your drawing or painting. I know there are times where I don't feel exactly comfortable with what I produce. I don't feel good about what I produce. But as I said before, it's the space I need to give myself to discard whatever I do, or feel free to discard whatever I do, because the whole thing is not to produce paintings or drawings for show. Like I was pretty happy with the outcome of this painting, but I didn't feel like it was the best thing that I've done. I kind of like the thing that I did afterwards, which makes sense because you build upon what you've done before. Like my habit has always been to, whenever I start a sketch, to strive to make it better than the one I did before. It's kind of hard to do when, when you're trying to shake that creative block or that creative rut or whatever, but you can start from there. It's very hard to start off where you left off. Think of it rather as a new start, and don't let it bother you to discard the first few attempts that you make. You'll eventually catch up, and where you left off, you'll find yourself there again, and you may even surpass it after a time. It's just natural that when you begin to do your work again, and you start to have that mindset, if you have that mindset, which I recommend that you do, that look, when I start out this drawing, it has to be better than the one I did before. I'm going to strive to improve. It's not just a painting, a painting is not just for its own sake, or a drawing is just not for its own sake, but for the artist, it's for your sake as well, because you're striving to get better. So this thing that you are currently working on is helping you to step in that direction, to get better at what it is that you are trying to do, which is, of course, art, image making. You're striving to get better so you can surpass what you did before as you explore new growth. You will find not long after starting again that you will become more ambitious and soon find yourself in the thick of a more personal and meaningful work. It will come. The thing is, you just have to start. You have to start somewhere. And that's what the sketching provides. It provides you a way to start, to come out of this funk and to get past all those feelings and all that gunk. The thing is just not to take it too seriously. You don't want to go there first. Don't make it hard to start. Make it easy and make it enjoyable. Ambition is just around the corner. It will come, as I said. Once you get started and start sketching, you will begin to become more ambitious. You will begin to start wanting more, to do more. Just now, as I finish this painting, or as I finish these sketches, right, I found that, I wanted to do something more. And problem is that I when I wanted to do some more, that's when I get more specific about the things that I use. I mean, not just for the enjoyment of it, but I wanted to have a certain kind of look, a certain kind of effect. So I started looking for the right paper, the right pencils, and I didn't have all of that. So it's important that it's going to strike you eventually. And the minute you start going, those creative juices will start flowing again, and it's going to hit you, and you're going to get ambitious. The thing is to make sure that you have what you need. Make sure you're stocked up. Now, I usually stock up on my art supplies. I just found that while I have everything else, I didn't have the surface that I needed. Most of my surfaces that I use were for painting. The sketching that I've done in the past in pencil were done as sketches, and it was fine enough to use a sketchbook. But here I am, I'm like, oh, I got a more ambitious project. I want to do a large portrait drawing, a double portrait drawing of my two sons, and I wanted it to be in pencil. I wanted it to be in graphite. And then I find that although I have a lot of excellent papers that work for painting, they weren't the ones that I needed for the type of drawing that I wanted to do. So all that is to say that, look, if you start, the ambition will come. If you start, you'll find yourself right into it in almost no time. And then you'll start dreaming of something big or something more to do. The thing is to just keep going, do plenty of sketches, sketch all the time. There was I don't remember the exact quote from Sargent, but Sargent remarked at how it is important to be sketching all the time. There's a interview with Sorolla, the Spanish painter Sorolla, long ago, where someone asked him how much does he sketch or draw or paint, how much time does he spend on doing his work. He says, and he told the guy, I am sketching all the time. I am sketching as I'm looking at you right now. Because even at that moment, although he doesn't have a sketch pad or a pencil handy, he was saying that even as he's looking, he's thinking of, how am I going to draw this? How am I going to paint this? How am I going to solve this problem? He's just thinking about creativity. He's thinking about doing what he normally does, and as far as painting and so forth. So he's always thinking about it. And I thought that was so excellent, because in the same way, a lot of times I catch myself thinking that, oh, I wish I had a sketch pad right now handy or whatever, while I'm traveling, and sometimes I have it, sometimes I don't. But the idea of sketching all the time, of being creative all the time, and you need to add to the doing to it, just not being creative in your mindset, which is great, but having time where you spend time doing things. And all I'm saying is that with the sketching, it will open the doors. You will become more ambitious. You will see past where you've been in terms of the funk and so forth, if you just open the door. You start a little bit and then you keep going. So if you are in a funk or a creative rut or whatever you call it, if you feel that way right now and you're finding it difficult to get started, then begin with a sketch. Don't be ambitious, just begin with a sketch. Start moving your hands. Everything else will follow. Something simple and fun, and you will build momentum with each sketch till you climb out of that rut that you've been in. So that's going to be it for this video. I want to thank you. If you followed this video thus far, I tried to keep it as short as possible. This has been like a 2-hour sketching time that I've had initially with this. I actually did this sketch as I was listening to my baseball game, a baseball game that I normally watch. So I had plenty of time to work on it, but of course I didn't want to do a 2-hour YouTube video. So I tried to condense it as much as I could to get as much quality as I can from what I did. I hope I was successful. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I want to remind you that if you like the video, please hit like, please share it, and let your friends know about it, and also, if you haven't done so yet, go ahead and subscribe to this channel. I will be coming out with a new video every Tuesday. And also, if you look at the links below, there will be links to my Gumroad page where you will find more video tutorials and so forth. So hopefully you enjoyed this, and I will see you back again next week. Bye-bye.